recording. Carolyn Fitzgerald, is that right? And then last name is?
Monson.
Monson, okay. Sounds fancy, Fitzgerald. Like it.
Yep. Irish heritage there. So my mom was a Sanchez, and my dad is very Irish.
Gotcha. And then I actually found you through Alicia, who's from here in Norwalk.
Okay.
Saw she had posted your guys' nonprofit on one of the local Facebook pages here, and so basically on this show, you know, we moved here in November, and through COVID, we don't know anybody at all. So,
Right.
so I was like, do this hobby, get to know some people, and reach out that way the best we can, and so it's kind of through there we've had a few shows, and I was like, I want to do something more impactful, more interesting, and maybe even more helpful to the community rather than just ramble on with some random comedian or some local musician guy. Like, actually wanted to talk to somebody who's something that's really important that affects us all. So you run a nonprofit. Forgive me, I forgot the name.
That's okay. Yes. So a little bit about myself. I have lived in Des Moines 20 years, as we talked about. I am very familiar with the community. I am very passionate about everything I do. I've sold real estate in the Des Moines area since '05. I have 5 children. 2 I adopted out of the foster care system.
Gotcha.
So I'm try to do a lot of giving back, kind of live my life like that. Unfortunately, my life took a little bit of a different turn in February. Gets me every time. But, and through the loss of my brother through suicide, which I believe to be pandemic related based on a lot of correspondence that we had together over the last year before he passed, I started a nonprofit. And the name is No Matter What.
That's right.
And the handles are at No Matter What NP.
Gotcha.
Or IG and Facebook.
And that was something your brother had always said to you, right?
Yeah, so, and thanks to Alicia, she has reached out and is one of our volunteers and very passionate and has a great resident to have, just a shout out to her and her giving back. I appreciate people that do a lot for the community and try to do things humanistic, in the humanistic spectrum. Yeah, so there's lots of different communications going back and forth with my brother that I could talk about, and I will through your questions. But how this came up to me was he was making a piece for a friend, and through some woodwork, and he would just frequently say it, but it never really stuck. Just we're very, very loving family, I would say.
Sure.
And then I asked him to make me a piece, and he had wrote I love you no matter what. And really when I think back of all these different conversations, one of the things that I think back about was we had real conversations, and we had said even a year ago in July, we got closer and closer over the last couple years during the pandemic because we're really soft at our cores.
Sure.
And I had said, gosh, it's crazy how I can, talk to you, and I know that it's going to stay between us. And he had indicated that pride in him was very prideful of the fact that he was a good friend, and anybody could talk to him about anything, and it was gonna stay with him.
Sure.
And he was very quick. He was funny, so he had to throw jokes out there, but I won't go into the jokes.
Yeah.
But yeah.
He did a lot of woodworking, though?
He did a lot of things. I would say where our logo comes from, it is a image of him, on a boat. He liked to fish. That was his go-to passion, was fishing. He loved to cook. But, I think he was skilled. I mean, he made a piece of artwork through wood, but that wasn't, I wouldn't say his passion or his go-to.
Sure. Maybe a hobby.
Just something, to kick around. He did work a little bit in construction out of high school.
Yeah. No, it's, you mentioned, feeling like it might be COVID related, and that's probably, everybody's got jokes about COVID, and of course, it's all we've been able to talk about for the last 18 months. It's captured everybody's imagination for sure. But like there's the things with it, especially in this field of, some of the earliest tragic stories you heard were young kids and 12-year-old kids just being alone and the loneliness of it all, especially at the early stages of COVID, people taking their own life. And it was like those moments of hearing those stories, whether it was on the news or you read an article, like those are some of the most tragic and saddening moments, because historically you'd think like during a wartime, during a pandemic, anything like that, people usually come together and help each other out more. But it seemed in there's a study for everything. They all contradict each other. It's always fun to go try to down those rabbit holes, but everything that I seen was it really, the younger you were or the more alone you were tending to be, the rates were just extremely higher than they ever have been. But those that did have family living with them or those that were just tend to be more open, or the older you were, didn't seem to have as much of an impact when it comes to suicide and having any type of demons like that. People were reaching out for help when they needed to, but it was the younger, isolated, which kind of saddened me, because it was one of those things probably didn't see coming, but hopefully like groups like yours are out there looking for ways to prevent that and to give them something to do. I saw you guys had a lot of like free events and things to just build community, get people out, de-stressors, things like that. What all do you guys provide for folks out there? Just some people just need community, I think.
Yeah. So you can do some, people aren't real familiar, but there is a thing called personal medicine out there, which I'm becoming certified, and I actually had somebody reach out. But exactly what I'm talking about is your own individual personal medicine is what you can do to help yourself. What do you go to when you're struggling? We all, and they're hobbies per se, but they're not like, I'm going to go smoke a cigar. They have to be healthy things. So,
Sure.
I'm going to put essential oils on, put a weighted blanket on, and listen to my favorite song, right? It's got to be action. But yes, one of the big things with suicide prevention, which I would say, I think there's a statistic, and it's in the high 90s that believe that suicide is preventable, and I believe that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Obviously, I've did a lot of research and digging, and I'll continue to do that as the nonprofit grows. But listen, and scaling back a little bit, we've all been in that dark place.
Yep.
Where you're laying in bed, and as you're not getting out of bed, you're getting farther in your head. Mm-hmm. Think about it. I mean, if you don't know somebody that's had a night of drinking, or a night, where that depressant, maybe I had too much wine, I'm not encouraging that. I'm just saying that
Right.
we're human here. And that's why I have tried to say, despite the worst thing you've ever done, because I think for a lot of us, if you're going to have a glass of wine, or, you're getting in your head more, and then you're waking up and you're feeling kind of sluggish, to your point, if you're alone, and you don't have, like, I have to get up. I have 5 kids,
Yep.
I have to cook dinner, I don't have a choice to stay in bed. But the longer you stay in bed, the longer you can dig yourself into those holes. And for my brother, he was alone, and he was going home to a dark duplex. And in Minnesota, it was shut down, and he was a very, very social person. Pull tabs, beers, the life of the party, made everybody laugh. we were concerned, and my dad and I had got many conversations over, ooh, we just don't like this. We just don't like this. I guess, so he loved to fish, but a lot of that stuff, people were so scared, and some of it I won't talk about, but people were so scared of getting COVID that popping in a car with somebody almost would scare somebody else out, scare somebody else, like we're going to go fishing. Well, have you been tested for COVID?
Right.
You think of all these things.
A lot of people just didn't know what to do.
Everybody was
they thought
on
the worst.
edge,
Yeah.
right? And
Anxiety was
for everybody, and a lot of the he loved to fish. Yes, he had hobbies. He liked to cook. But I think there was a level of family around him, and we all can kick ourselves and think we could have done this, we should have done that, we didn't do this. One of the things my dad and I talk about, and it is very heart-wrenching, is a particular time that we were scheduled to go up there. Been very open that my brother was struggling with some addiction during COVID. And there was a time that we were there, and he had kind of forgotten we were coming. So this particular time, it was a very cold day, and I was like, Dad, I'm just not, I got a lot to do today, and the kids have this going on, and we didn't go. And he had cooked a lot of food, and he was prepared. And you can go back to those things, and that can eat you up all day long.
Yeah. Thinking about that and wondering what if, and that's got to be the hardest part afterwards, is there's a million of those.
Oh yeah, for everybody, and I didn't, and I talk about this and I write about this, and I'm very always been straight to the heart type of person. You get what you get, but if you would have asked me 5 years ago, the worst thing could happen, would be losing a child. Of course.
Right.
But losing my brother, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, how do people get through losing a child? Like, this has literally changed me forever,
Right.
And it's just yesterday, I'm having breakdowns, and it's not getting easier,
Right.
So
yeah, a year ago, never thought you'd be in the position you're in, and
not being able to call him, and he really enjoyed sports, of course. I have a 16-year-old that's getting ready to play football and
Right,
wrestle,
right.
so it's hard, you want to share those things, and you want to share your life moments. And
yeah. What was his name?
Sean Patrick Fitzgerald.
Sean Patrick. That Fitzgerald just makes it all so much cooler. No,
Yeah.
I have a boring last name, West. It's,
Yeah.
I'm not related to Kanye, but try to get there. So joking aside, some of the stuff you do, the reason I think it's so important is so I'm the youngest of a whole bunch of brothers, and I got one sister, and we haven't had anything within our family to really be that worried about with suicide, but all my brothers have dealt with it at some point in their lives, whether it be really close friends, best friends, or just being around others that are dealing with that. My two closest older brothers, one of them's best friend, ended up killing himself. He had addiction problems. He was in jail, hung himself while he was in jail. And then another one had twin brothers that were his friends, and both of them gone now. One ended up hanging himself in a hotel room, and it's just, we never thought some of those folks would ever go that way. And to me, it seems like every time it rears its head up in the circles or people that I know, you never were thinking like, oh my God, that guy, what was wrong? And
Why?
Yeah, and there's sometimes where you're like, man, last time I seen him, I wish I would have checked and seen if it was okay, and talked to him more. And yeah, everybody's got those thoughts that run through, but it's like, then I'm like, what things could have been there for because this happens to everybody. That's I guess that's the point that I'm trying to make, is like, how can people not only spread the word of, maybe your nonprofit's not the right fit for this one person, but I know you network with some other ones. I've seen somebody you talk to on one of your YouTube channels, and I'm sure there's other nonprofits out there for other folks, but they have to start somewhere. They have to talk to somebody, and it's okay to get help. And I don't understand what the stigma of just saying, hey, like, I just need to go talk to somebody. I don't know where that breaks down, but it affects all age groups, all societal groups, all class groups. It doesn't matter where you're at. It's just people are so afraid to say they need some help with something. And I don't know, I got suspicions on where that comes from, but what are your thoughts on that? And then some other organizations, depending on their walks of life and circles they work in, there's always somebody out there to talk to.
Yeah, I think, number one, I want to make sure that as a community that we are coming together, and there's a lot of great things out there, and there's a lot of people out there that do things and nobody knows about,
Mm-hmm.
And so I've known of a couple, and I'll keep reaching out to them and asking, I want to know why, what is your reason, and what are you doing, and and teach us something about that, because that's a very important aspect as we're talking to the community, because there's a really good healing that I have found with serving others.
Sure.
And I think other people use that too. Myself, it's really easy to go a million directions when you see gaps, and you're like, this gap needs needs closed. But
Yep.
What I want to focus on and what I'm beginning this nonprofit focus on is, let's continue to talk. Let's continue to share our stories, because as we share, other people will feel more comfortable sharing, and thus you're chipping away at that stigma. Yep. Okay. So I have anxiety. I've struggled with it my whole life. It really came up when I didn't know what it was when I was in my 20s, and it was like more health anxiety, and I've kind of struggled with that. When I was in my 30s, I got panic attacks. I had no idea what these were, and they were really severe. Right. And that's kind of gotten better as I've gotten older. Nonetheless, I have generalized anxiety. I have seen it, and I won't share my own personal family, but I've seen it with each one of my children in different ways. Sure. So I think the more that other people see other people talking, and the more views, per se, to things like this, people are more comfortable, it becomes less of an issue, and people can talk about what they're feeling. And a lot of times there's a lot of guilt. I haven't seen my dad. I'm just giving an example. Right. I haven't seen my dad in a while. For me, I think a lot about being, I told my brother I loved him all the time. Right. I really did. One of the last things I wrote on his Facebook, the day I wrote on his Facebook, I love you more than when the bass hits the hook, which of course is a country song. Right. And he was responding back to it, so you never would have known. But nonetheless, I knew he had some struggles, and I didn't really think it was as deep as it was. Yeah. But to your point, yes, breaking the stigma. I've had a lot of people not like that word, which has been an area of debate that I've just liked to hear people, why? Let's talk about why you don't like that word. I'm continuing to use that word because it is a stigma. Yeah. What's the argument against it? So I've had a couple editors reach out to me and just say, what they're basically saying is, by saying stigma, you're basically saying that it is unacceptable to have a mental illness, is what they're saying, is you're giving it more meaning by saying it's a stigma. Validating it. Yeah, validating it. Mm-hmm. Gotcha. So I did, but again, we have so much in life with this. I'm seeing red, you're seeing, orange. Well, let's let's talk about it, because it's probably somewhere in the middle. And so that's kind of been my angle with that sort of thing. But yeah, let's have conversations. And then the other one is, of course, community. Let's have people get out there and talk. And, you know, I mean, it helps. It helps to get out there and do things and find what you love to do, you know.
It's a hell of a time to try to do that and talk about arguing over the word stigma and stuff in the world of social media, which I guess that's probably where I want to take it, is how much of you know, whether it be in suicide, depression, or just every anxiety, especially with how people interact online. I guess this is kind of a weird story, but I get mad when people dogpile online. So there's these groups that, you know, somebody will say something stupid in, and not to defend what the stupid comment was, but you just see it's almost like somebody just got thrown over a fence with a pack of ravaged wild dogs, and they're just going and nipping at, you know, whoever said the dumb thing that day. And not to say that, like I said, whatever was said was stupid, but people just attack. And I'm like, when people say terrible things or dumb things, or some people don't belong on the internet, let's go there. But when people are like that, there is not a lot of people that will say, hey, back off, guys. Like, he had a bad day. Maybe he had too many drinks. Maybe, you know, bad day at work, whatever the case may be. Like, most people, 99.9%, are usually pretty damn good people. There's a few of them out there that, okay, sure, you know, but still, even then, like, it's the lack of the social media specifically. I wouldn't see people do that in real life. If somebody was walking down the street and mumbled something stupid, most of the time people would ignore it and just be like, oh, no, just let that go. They wouldn't dogpile and attack the way they do online. And so what I see is, you see almost not like radicalizing people online, but then they get pushed into a corner, and then they get shamed and shunned, and then there's nobody that will help them anymore. You know what I mean? It's this weird game people are playing, and it's really dangerous, I think, and I think it's causing more harm than good sometimes. And I'll defend it to the death every time I stick up for the most random dumb comment people will make, and I'm like, sure, I look like the ass out of the whole thing, yeah. But like, I'm not defending him. I'm more saying, like, he needs help. He's ignorant. He's dumb. Whatever the case may be, let's enlighten that person instead of just start, you know, slapping labels and names and putting him into a box where he's alone. It's not going to help him or her, whoever it is. You know what I mean? Social media. Yeah. Thoughts on that? That's like where my head goes. I see it happen every day. It's toxic. It's awful. And like I said, some people just shouldn't be there. They can't handle it, and they will say something stupid. They just need to back away and get off of there. And
yeah. Well, I think, thank you for asking me the question, because I think it's very important in relation to being bullied and even suicide, yeah. Because definitely. It happens. Mm-hmm. You know, there's cyberbullying out there. And my own personal opinion is, a family member had said to me after a national story hit that I agreed to do, the hashtags our story. I had some of it myself, and somebody had said, I had thought, well, gosh, you know, you almost feel like you want to defend yourself, you know. Well, they were, you know, because there was clips, and, you know, they ask you for all these clips, of course, right. You know, and they piece them together. And, you know, one particular one was a story about how I, you know, the whole situation surrounding the day that we found out about my brother's passing. And I was in bed. I was exhausted. You know, we couldn't reach him. And I had swimsuit bottoms on. It looked like I was in my underwear. Who cares, right? I had some of that bullying, you know, mm-hmm. Mostly positive. I agreed to the story. I'm a grown woman. I'm right. comfortable in myself. But somebody said, you have to remember that sort of thing gives courage to cowards. And hate me for saying it, but it does. Yep. Because you're right. I mean, they're going to see somebody now, and instead of the fact that, hey, it took a lot of courage to come out there and tell a story that is, some people feel is
Right.
family business.
Yep.
And the reason I'm telling this story is because people are afraid to talk about suicide. And now more than ever, it is out there. And everywhere we look, it's happening like crazy. Numbers are up. We shouldn't be afraid to say the word suicide. It happens, and people
Right.
are choosing to end their lives that way, and we need to talk about it. I believe it's preventable, but I believe that that sort of thing, I mean, a story like that, obviously I'm getting worked up, took a lot of courage, they even made fun of the fact I was upset, It's like, I'm grieving, here. Doesn't mean because I'm grieving or because, you don't walk on water
Right.
that you can't go out and do good in the world. Yes, you can.
Right.
You can use your story to help others, and I can still be grieving at the same time. And for most people, it's going to move them more because it's
Right.
really raw into the core. But for others, they're just going to cyberbully, and I have to be okay with it and be like, okay,
Because
but
that's just how things are. No, it's not.
So I just had to appreciate the good and accept the bad, and like, you agreed to do it, you should have been prepared.
Yeah. And being like, it's not like you're forced onto that stage. You're trying to do good, and when somebody hijacks the good that you're trying to do
It's
for
hard.
whatever, I think most people don't even know what they're trying to do. They're just
They're trying
talking
to
trash.
say, because I am very well spoken. But there's times where I may not appear well spoken. So I think that some of the comments, maybe one of them was like, well, we should have somebody that's more composed. Well, no, there's sometimes I'm composed in life with my kids, and sometimes I'm
Right.
not, because sometimes, grief is hitting me, or sometimes, I'm not at my best self, and you're going to get what you're going to get, whether it be on a story or in life.
Rather have authentic.
Yeah.
Yeah. You see some people that are just super polished, and I'm like, they weren't. First off, they weren't always like that. Like,
Takes a lot of preparing, and
Yes.
it's very exhausting
Yes.
to maintain that.
yes, for sure. But yeah, the social media thing. How much time do you spend on there? So there's ways of using social media for good, through work, to network, to socialize, and to build a brand. And then there's the rest of social media, which is kind of the stuff that I hate.
It's been hard for me because with real estate, I've had to be out there. It's an easy way for people to inbox you, hey, used you 4 years ago, or whatnot. I honestly would like to keep things more private. I have adopted children, so it's very hard to. You want to share your family. You want to share how, my kids are beautiful. My kids are doing this.
Right.
My kids are doing that. I'm doing this. Everybody, you want to use it, to share about your life. But unfortunately, I haven't been able to really disconnect because of the jobs that I've held. And now with the nonprofit, I'm going, I'm out there either way. With the nonprofit, one of the things that we are going to do is have a disconnect day. So we're just going to encourage everybody to disconnect,
That's
from
awesome.
social media, and just be with your family. And then the next day, maybe share what you did on our Facebook page. What did you do with your family? How did you disconnect? Because I chose to do that over the 4th of July with my family, and not have my phone as much. Let's just pick it up like towards the end of the night in case there was anything pressing. Mind you, I have a lot of kids. And it felt really good, and I just think that that'd be a good thing that we're going to develop as a nonprofit.
I like that idea. So we go camping whenever we can. We got a little camper. It's just me, the wife, and got a 12-year-old, which I'm going to need a bigger camper because he takes up half the thing now. But that's the best part, is like purposefully going somewhere where I can't get reception.
Right.
And
exactly.
if I need to go check my phone, and I think it's that important to check my phone, I need to go either walk up the hill or go drive to another part of the lake where I can get 2 bars, update my email. Like, I do have work things that I have to update and check on, but it makes you realize that I really don't need to check my email every 5 seconds. Like, I catch myself doing it. I'm just like, what
We all
next?
do it.
What do I got to do now?
It's
Like,
such a brain drain too, really. It's just it's just an
Yeah.
easy way to kind of shut your. I don't watch TV, but
yeah.
my thoughts on it. I'm out there. I'm going to continue to be out there because of the work I do. However, I will have a disconnect day, and I'll continue to try to do that more.
It's so important. Like it made me realize like how little it matters that I'm doing that. Like, I don't know, I always took pride in that. I'm always going to reply to that email within within 3 or 4 minutes. Like, you're always going to know I'm connected, and anything you need, I got your back now. I'm like,
I mean, within minutes.
It can wait.
You know, I think that's just a profession too. You know, you want people, whatever profession, if you're in a certain profession, you want to communicate.
Yep.
But
it becomes almost expected of you after a while too. And
once you start,
it's not necessarily always a bad thing to let people, count on you like that, but it can be very draining, especially over the little silly stuff that you don't need. But yeah, I don't know. My when we go camping, even my son puts his phone down, doesn't do anything. We no Wi-Fi hotspot. It's just listen to the radio, and sometimes if it's raining, we'll try to get a channel on the antenna out in the camper, because it's just like see what's on there. Usually nothing, but
and it kind of brings me to something that's been important to me is, I love nature, and I've been, I do a lot of hiking and things like that. And one of the last conversations I did have with my brother, which hasn't been talked about a whole lot, but it's very important, is I was drinking a cup of coffee, and the mug said, "Into the forest I go to lose my mind and find my soul." And I had loved it. And then, I had another one that was mountains related, and my brother had inboxed me or messaged me on Snapchat. I love that. Have a decorative piece like that. And I said, the last thing on chat that I said to him was wander. And I think because fishing for him was kind of that piece, right? You're losing yourself. You're you're disconnected, to your point. And I think our mental health as a society would be much better if, when we're doing these healthy activities, and our term, personal medicine, if we are disconnecting, we're keeping our mind a little bit healthier, I believe.
Yeah. What's personal medicine all have involved with it?
It's pretty much just that. I mean, there's specific courses and classes and coaching and trainings and things like that, but it is really just your go-to, what you can do to help yourself. Believe me, we are not medically trained psychologists. Right. We are saying, yes, you need to see a therapist if you need that, do whatever you believe as far as getting the help you need, and take the medications that you believe and that you need. But aside from that you need more than that. There's things that you can do to keep yourself healthy. We all know, what those are.
Right.
And we can find, sometimes we don't know, but we have to do a little searching to find out, maybe one, like my daughter's is yoga, my son works with his hands, my other son's is weightlifting, and, mine is, became really doing a lot of community service things over the years and helping others. And then, of course, recently through the pandemic, I did a lot of hiking, and that was very therapeutic, to your point, quiet, and I'm disconnected.
Hiking's awesome. Find the right place and there's nobody around. Yeah. That was another one. We went hiking just down by Indianola, the lake down there. I always forget the name of it.
Is it Ledges? No.
Ledges up north. Aquabi.
Oh, I forgot about that one. Yeah.
And they're not like real big trails. I was just taking the 12-year-old through there, but him and my wife saw deer at the end of them. Of course, I missed it, but it's those little cool moments. I know he's going to remember that forever. He talked about it for weeks and weeks and weeks.
Yeah.
So you get those memories, you get the comfort, relaxation, you get the disconnect.
You do. And my oldest had bought me a book in Des Moines. There's a lot of hikes you can do in Des Moines. You don't have to go to Colorado for, say, I think he was trying to say, Mom, you don't have to go to Colorado all the time. Like, we have these here, just they're not going to be as, but
intricate and crazy. Yeah.
So, just, I think his way of stop running, because, you do a lot of running. You do a lot of things when you're hurting.
Oh, yeah. It's distractions and things to get your mind off it, or even to get your mind in the right space to deal with certain emotions and certain things that come up.
Exactly. Being by yourself, sometimes you need, I had a friend say you need to let yourself feel, and I kind of took that to heart and said, I do feel, believe me, I do a lot of crying, and I've did a lot of crying, but sometimes I'm also trying to escape that, and I'm aware,
Yeah. So you have a YouTube podcast that you guys have just kind of dabbled in and started with. What else, outreach wise, or people want to listen? Where would they reach out? Website and stuff like that.
So I've worked really hard. I think, in 6 months I've came farther than some nonprofits in 10 years. Really, I did my first event in 2 months after I started in February. I did a run for the purpose, which I had over 100 people, and I did that in May, still during the pandemic. And there was a WHO story on that. There was a KCCI story when I started. This is just a topic for people right now, and unfortunately, it hit my family. Our family. But I'm just go. So yeah, I wanted all the platforms. So we are on TikTok, we are on Snapchat, we are www.nomatterwhatnonprofit.com, and then there's hyperlinks that you can go to, but it's at No Matter What NP on Instagram, at No Matter What NP on Facebook is a big one. That's the one I've been mainly using. I gotta get more work done on all the other platforms, but yes, I did start a YouTube channel, No Matter What. I started a podcast. Once we get going right now, it's pretty much a lot of grassroots.
Yeah.
But a lot of free class. Every month we have a free class at Inner Space Des Moines. Some of the big events that I have coming up, though, are September, and they're going to be great. I just want to make sure, even if I take a loss, which I will probably take a loss, is that we're bringing awareness to suicide, right? So we're going to have an event with Peace Tree where we're going to do sun, and plus but I always want to make sure there's a creativity. I don't want to do what people have already done. I want to make sure there's a level of creativity to everything we do.
It helps spark interest and be unique.
Yeah, and I mean, we're all smart people. We can figure out stuff that is interesting. But so we are going to have a dog wash at Canine Clean. And we're going to and that is going to be on September 4th, all day. They'll give some proceeds back of their sales to us. We will have dog suicide awareness bandanas in Iowa State, because Iowa State plays that day, not because I'm favoring either team. That'll be an event on September 4th and September 5th. We're going to have sunset yoga at Peace Tree in conjunction with Yoga 6. We have so much. We have so many things coming up. I'm probably going to forget about a couple others. The big one I wanted to do on September 26th was volleyball.
Oh, cool!
And doing that in conjunction with Sands, and I have a couple sponsors: Gershman Mortgage, Maddie Thompson, and Greg Stewart from Greg Stewart Real Estate. And the reason I wanted to do that is it's still hitting home for me. My brother and I, he would say, "Talk to me, Goose," right? So okay. I want a Top Gun theme, and I want it to be funny. He was all about dressing up, having fun, having laughs. So people can grab a team, $20 each, or whatever, $100 a team, and dress up with as movies, so movie themed, and play some volleyball. So those are some of our events that are coming up, but we'll keep the Facebook page is the best place to go for those things. And I just added a couple more today. One thing I do want to say is, if we aren't going into, for say, bars, and we're trying to say sober, we're not reaching some of the people we need to. So we will have a happy hour at Peace Tree in August, and it's anybody that wants to get up and talk, they have a system there, and we want to encourage that. But it's a direction I've chosen to go after traveling and talking to some other nonprofits. It makes the most sense,
It does. I'll share a personal story. I was not a very good child. I got into some trouble when I was really young, and to avoid having anything on long-term record or have to do anything too much for punishment, judge said, you got to go. You're going to put you on probation. Now, granted, this is super weird. I was a 15-year-old kid. Was hanging out with some rowdy kids, and we got in trouble one night. But judge is like, go to AA meetings and you're on probation for 6 months. I was like, 16-year-old kid going, and this is a town of 700 people, so everybody, there's no AA.
Right.
Like the second A, the second A is gone. We all know each other, and everybody knows who's going there. Everybody knows whose car's parked there. So it was really awkward, but there was some good and some bad that came out of that for me. Is being that young, it was really hard to even talk to adults of all ages about, what you just did as a kid that got you into that trouble, and to reconcile that and to change yourself at that young age is really hard to do. But then just sitting there and listening to those guys' stories, like, that was way more impactful. And I was just, you sit there and, 15, 16, you don't conceptualize necessarily that their story could become my story if I keep doing this stupid stuff. That's not what I was thinking at the time, but I was like, man, that's gotta suck. Even a young kid can sit there. And then as I got older and I started seeing people do, oh, I heard that guy tell that story already, I know where this goes. Mm-hmm. And things like that, I think, are really super important. The bad part about it is, because I was a 15, 16-year-old, the day I got brave enough to actually stand up and talk, I don't think anybody took anything serious. They're like, oh, shut up, kid. But
yeah.
And so, but that's the other thing is not listening to kids when they speak up. Sometimes everybody goes, aw, kind of does the, well.
I agree with that. 100%. I think we need to talk more about that, actually.
Yeah.
Because we don't.
Yeah, we don't listen to the children nearly as often, because we just kind of brush it off to the side. Mm-hmm. And we got bigger problems to worry about. You're
We're
fine.
Busy,
I dealt with worse stuff. Like that's really the
and they
attitude.
Need to, we need to, and that's a really good point.
Yeah. So that was probably, I don't know, you brought that up, and that flashed up in my mind, just the Alcoholics Anonymous type thing, and being able to reach people. They've been able to help themselves, and some of them couldn't, some of them could, but there's so many different groups like that once again the stigma word will pop back up, that they don't want to be associated with somebody that goes to AA. Well, maybe that is what you need. Like, it's not a bad program. You don't have to be religious to go through a 12-step program. It's framed that way, but there's other things you can do. It's just everything gets labeled, put into the little box, and nobody wants to go into that little box anymore. And so, yeah, I don't know. It's really good that, because I've seen, or I've heard some folks be in certain organizations and say, well, we're not going to help these people because of this, or these people because of that. It's got to be all or nothing. Otherwise, it's there can't be a stopgap. It's like
there is in a lot of and even a lot of different things that are supposed to be doing good in the community. There is kind of that, but to your point, more and more kids are struggling right now, and I think too, just because we're changing so fast, and kids are changing, and the world is kind of changing, and
it's hard to keep up.
It's hard to keep up, but I had children. I had my kids struggled sometimes when they were younger, so it absolutely is very important that we are just talking, more than that we're breaking that stigma, so that people understand. At work, you can go to your boss and you can say, "I'm having a panic attack right now. I need to step away,"
right? Or
because you're just so, well, I'm not going to get that promotion. Well, there goes that career for me, and we can't have that, because 1 in 5 people struggle with this. So we need to be able to be open, so that our kids feel like it's okay if you're can't focus, or it's okay if you are feeling depressed. They're dealing with stuff. They're their hormones, their life, their girlfriend, their sports. They are dealing with some things that are going to shape them the rest of their life, and they need to be able to express that to their parents.
There's a ton going on.
Right.
Yeah. It's like, I remember, being that young and just everything going on in the world around you, and granted, getting in trouble and doing stupid stuff, but I was doing that stupid stuff because nobody was listening, and
attention seeking too.
Yeah, that's what some of it was. I grew up with all these brothers and sisters, so they all grew up, moved on, and bless my mom, single mom. She was working overnight, so she was sleeping during the day. So like, what am I gonna do? I'm gonna go raise hell. Like,
yeah, and it's it's a rush, and it's high seeking activities, and that kids, teenagers, that's what they're known for.
Yep.
So.
Yep. Somebody's got to be there to put those guardrails up and
Yeah.
keep them in line.
Yeah.
Yeah. Things can get dangerous real quick.
I think for all of us, and that's kind of the point of just being able to talk to other people and feeling comfortable talking, and
Yeah.
just
It's
weight off
not
your
that hard to
shoulders. Right.
It's not that hard to just chat with somebody.
Right.
Yeah. Sometimes even a stranger in the middle of a neighborhood you probably never been to. Yeah.
Exactly. And it feels better. And so, I mean, a lot of people can say, well, let's talk about it, or let's talk. It's a big thing people say, of course, right now. But really, talking does help.
Yeah.
And just talking to somebody and feeling like, they can give
Yeah.
you good insight. You feel a little bit better.
Yeah. In person too.
Right.
This is Zoom talking crap. I'm done with it.
I know.
It's too disconnected.
It's disconnected, and it was a problem for a lot of people. They weren't having that human interaction, that connection, it's connectivitous.
And there's too many distractions
Oh, yeah.
when, I don't know how many times I sit
You're on their phone or you're on a Zoom. And
you
I'm
get 12
here.
people on a Zoom call, 3 of them aren't paying attention,
Right.
one's half asleep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Happens
mean-
every week. I see it over and over.
Oh
It's
yeah,
like,
I'm ready, and I'm hoping that we're going in the right direction, right? That's all we can hope for.
yep. All right. Hey, I appreciate you coming over.
Absolutely.
And this was fun.
Yeah, it was great. It was a great conversation.
Yeah. Look forward to your events coming up. We'll make sure links and all that are posted, and whatever the info down below and all that stuff.
IG handles, that'd be awesome.
You get all your handles and all the events down there, and try to get myself over to one of these.
Yes.
And come hang out with you
Okay,
guys.
sounds great. Thank you for inviting me.
Yes, thank you.